Hi guys, this is gsmnom.com and I'm here with a review of a selfie phone called vivo V23 5G. It's the famous color changing phone which changes the colors of the backside from the gold we have here to blue. You already saw that in the unboxing and we used the UV light to just change the color in a mere 30 seconds. Now, it's a selfie phone because it has a dual front camera in this notch here, 50 megapixel one of them, and the other one is an ultra-wide 8 megapixel shooter. Aside from that, it's a high mid-range phone priced at around $500, which mimics the iPhone design as you can see through this flat frame and has a bunch of pretty solid specs and a brand new FunTouch OS. Okay, so let's go straight to it. First of all, I'm going to discuss the design. Obviously, it's iPhone inspired, as you can see here, with a flat frame. It's also a pretty slim device, 7.6 millimeters in thickness, and weighs a decent 181 grams. It's got a pretty solid build. I'm talking about glass at the front, metal at the sides, and special glass at the back, which changes colors. Once again, we have the gold version, which switches to blue or green depending on the angle you look at, because it's a slight gradient here. Now, another interesting thing is that Vivo decided to put shot sensation up glass at the front side. Apparently it's supposed to be pretty tough even when compared to Gorilla Glass. Now the bezels are quite big, and even though we have a notch, it's not as big as the one of an iPhone. It's a well-built device which is comfy to hold and use, and it has those comfy buttons on the side which are definitely more premium than the plasticky buttons you see on the average mid-range phone. Aside from this version you can see here, there should also be a more serious black version. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, what you're seeing here is obviously an AMOLED, and it's a 6.44 inch AMOLED, the Full HD Plus resolution, HDR10 Plus support, and 90 Hz in refresh rate. It's pretty symmetrical, but this black area all around the screen may bother some people aesthetically. The screen already comes from the factory with a pre-applied plastic protection, and when it comes to the actual viewing experience, we got you covered with this video here. Now let's see how immersive the experience is. Okay, so the notch you can see here could affect your gaming. Depends on the game and depends how well adapted it is to this panel. We got some vivid colors here, but it feels a bit more white, I would say, compared to the average AMOLED. We got some decent view angles, quite wide. Solid contrast even in the full sunlight, so all in all it's fine, just a bit more white and washed out compared to the regular AMOLEDs. Now, the pixel arrangement is of the pentile matrix variety, and when it comes to the brightness, let's see here, we measure the brightness with a lux meter of 510 lux units. This is actually a pretty solid result. It's above the Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G and also above the Galaxy A52 5G. It's below the OnePlus Nord Core Edition 2 and below the Huawei Nova 9. Okay, so far so good. Okay, let's actually undo this. Interesting that we have a gesture for deleting stuff in the gallery. Now we go further, and by further I mean I'm going to show you some of the options that the screen proposes. Obviously, we have always on display. We're dealing with an AMOLED panel. We have adaptive brightness, eye protection, dark theme, screen colors. You can set the device to standard, professional, bright, and we have a color temperature slider, as well as font style, and refresh rates. Smart switch 60 or 90 Hz. Then we talk about the innards of the phone, and I'm going to cover the CPU first. It's nothing you haven't seen before. MediaTek Dimensity 920. 6nm octa-core CPU clocked at 2.5 GHz, also present on the Redmi Note 11 Pro Plus and the Realme 9 Pro Plus. It's got to accompany it a quantity of 12 gigs of RAM and 256 GB of storage. There are also versions of the phone with 8 gigs and 128 gigs respectively. There's no microSD card slot here, just so you know. Also no lag and no overheating even in the hardcore games. I don't know if you know this, but there's a game called Torchlight Infinite. It's available right now on the alternative app stores like TapTap, and that's one intense game and it doesn't overheat the device. Now, as far as benchmarks are concerned, I'm going to go to the sister site and check it out. We start with Antutu 9, where this device is placed above the Oppo Reno 7 Lite, but below the Galaxy A52s 5G. Now in Antutu 8, you should probably know that we were able to surpass OnePlus Nord Core Edition 2 and also Galaxy A52 5G, but we stayed below the Huawei Nova 9. In Geekbench 5, this handset was able to score in the multi-core test above the Oppo Reno 7 Lite and above the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. However, below the OnePlus Nord 2. As far as the 3D Mark is concerned, let's see here. 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1 has the vivo V23 5G at above the Realme 9 Pro Plus and above the OnePlus Nord Core Edition 2 5G, as well as below the Huawei Nova 9 and below the Oppo Reno 6 Pro. So it's somewhere between the mid-range phones of 2021 and between the mid-range phones of 2022, especially if you look at the, let's say, OnePlus series, for example. Okay, so as far as temperature is concerned, we don't have problems with overheating. You can see here we achieved 33.1 degrees Celsius, and that's in the benchmark test. And then we have the temperature in games, where we achieved 31.9 degrees Celsius, so definitely no overheating. Okay, so previously you may have not been able to see part of the benchmarks, so just a quick reminder of what the scores are. This is Antutu 9, 489K. This is Antutu 8, 408K, and just for the sake of it, Geekbench 5 multi-core, and what we have here is 2100 points. Okay, so now everything is cleared out. Once again, my conclusion for the performance is that we're in between the mid-range OnePlus phones of 2021 and the mid-range OnePlus phones of 2022. As far as the battery goes, I was a bit worried by the 4200 mAh unit, but I was happy to see it charges fast at 44 watts, and we also have a charger in the box with that exact capacity. As far as the battery test is concerned, I have a pleasant surprise for you. This device is actually one of the good ones. Now we achieved 19 hours and 5 minutes of continuous HD video playback, which is great. It's superior to the Realme GT 5G and the Xiaomi 11T Pro, also beating the Oppo Reno 6 Pro. It scored below the Moto G50 and the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. Now this is video playback. If you are up for more serious usage, like, I don't know, business, work or whatever, office, 16 hours and 42 minutes, it caught the top 10. It's pretty impressive in my book, and it goes above the predecessor vivo V21 5G by 3 minutes. At the same time, it stays below the Redmi Note 11 with this result here, and below just 8 other phones like the Realme GT Neo 2. It's quite impressive in my book. As far as the charging is concerned, you go from 0 to 100% in, let's see, 53 minutes. You can see it here, not bad. Almost top 30 material, and in 30 minutes you should be all set for 76% of charge. And we also have a battery saver feature. Now, as far as the acoustics are concerned, sadly we only have this singular speaker here. We do not have an audio jack, but we have a bundled in the box adapter from USB-C to 3.5mm, and believe it or not, we even have a pair of headphones in the box of the device. Okay, so I think it's time we listen to some music, so here we go. Okay, so things get a bit more clearer at a lesser volume. At maximum volume, there's quite a bit of distortion. This speaker at the bottom is very loud, it has good highs, a decent voice, but not much bass. The sound is pretty noisy, and it gets noisy fast, even at around 60 or 70% volume, so be advised. Okay, so I also noticed that there are some changes in the voices of the musicians I already know and listen to for tens of years, so there's that. Now, as far as the decibel meter test is concerned, this is the first acoustic test, and it's highly impressive. 95 decibels with an acoustic sample. It's the 4th place from the hundreds of phones we've tested. It goes above the Poco F3, vivo V21, and hundreds of other phones. It's only below 3 phones: Oppo Reno 6, BlackBerry Passport, and Lee Echo handset. As far as the gaming is concerned, I'm less impressed by this actually. Here we have 100.5 decibels, as you can see for yourself, above the Huawei Nova 9, above the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, below the Motorola Moto G60, below the Huawei Nova 9 SE. Now it's time to address the cameras. I'm going to start with the back camera with, I would say, a rather typical setup with a 64 megapixel main shooter with phase detection autofocus, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera with a 120-degree angle of capture, and a 2 megapixel macro cam, the smaller fellow here. There's the LED flash here, dual LED actually, and 4K 30 frames per second videos. Now on the selfie front, we have a dual selfie camera set up here at the front side in the notch, 50 megapixel main camera with autofocus, 8 megapixel ultra wide camera for your ultra wide needs with 105-degree angle. This camera can also shoot 4K video and has dual LED flashes here, which I can activate for you if you want to. Okay, so we go here and we activate the spotlight, and you can see the ultra bright 2 flashes. Now, aside from that, we have a wide array of features for your selfie needs. Let's actually see some of them. There's truly the greatest amount I've seen ever. And if you look here, you're going to find the bokeh section. Here you can find the beautifying effects. You can find makeup options. You can find posture options, but the list goes on. You can find these extra filters, classic, shadows, or simply filters, and once again, so much more. And if you start to apply your portrait, there are cherry blossoms, butterfly, and more. Once again, a lot of options to apply, and stabilization options as well for the main camera, ultra or standard stabilization, and a night mode, which is very efficient and applied to the ultra wide and the selfie as well. Now, as far as the gallery is concerned, it's quite generous, I have to admit. We have 400 shots. I'm going to start with the macros because there's the last ones I took. These are macros of toys I had lying around the house. For a simple reason, Vivo hid the macro option too well. I couldn't find it when I was outside. I found it indoors, and I would say it's decently impressive for a mere 2 megapixel camera, macro camera. These are some toys, once again, laying around the house. Decent level of macro quality. Speaking of decent stuff, I want to go back here and show you we have quite a few flower close-ups, and they aren't half bad. Some of them are poorly focused, but most of them make the cut. And they're impressive enough to be posted on social media. The colors are spot on, and now we go further. Let's see if we can have the auto rotate properly working here. Nope, it's that kind of gallery. Okay, these are some outdoor scenarios. The sky looks a bit unrealistic if you ask me, color wise. This is the regular shot. This is the ultra wide shot. Ultra wide shots are a bit darker and less generous with the details. I was actually impressed by the level of zoom here. If you zoom up to 2x or 3x, of course it's just digital zoom, you'll definitely be impressed compared to your expectations. Once again, nice close-ups, lovely texture of the knots here, but let's go to the park where we had more colors. I'm going to keep the selfie section separate, even more flowers here, and a church. Couldn't catch it in the regular shot, we caught it in the ultra wide, and while this may look okay on your PC, it definitely is a bit darker and less generous with the details, especially on the sides. Okay, so I promised you colors. Here we are, a bunch of toys here, a toy train with all the colors you may want. And here we have a problem. The green of the vegetation is way too intense compared to what I saw in real life, something we found on both photos and videos. I mean, I'm very happy with the yellows, but the greens of the vegetation, not quite. And the sky is totally white here, but HDR can fix such a scenario. The artificial objects like the toys look fine to me, color-wise and clarity-wise, but there are moments when the vegetation gives away the mid-range identity of the phone. Okay, I think we've said enough. Some toy close-ups here, and also a portrait of toys, and I think it's time to address the selfies. First things first, some of those were taken by my co-worker. You can see them here. These are indoor selfies. I would say they're quite expressive. I mean, you can tell the person's feelings at the moment, and the ultra-wide shots doesn't do justice to the scenario. So ultra-wide shots indoors with a selfie camera, not so much. but the main camera is actually pretty decent, at least in this scenario. I, for myself, was kind of disappointed by the selfie camera. I mean, these are not bad shots, but I was actually expecting to see the king of all selfie phones. For one thing, we don't see the pores here as we do sometimes on flagship phones and even some mid-range phones, so no trace of pores, and a pretty weird focus which happens every once in a while. Now you can clearly see that enlarged eyes effects has been applied here. We go to more realistic selfies. Another set of selfies, we have it here. I mean, there's good clarity, nice texture of the hair and the beard, but I still cannot see the pores, and as I mentioned before, sometimes the focus seems to be on the objects behind me instead of me. Okay, so we have cool effects and we also apply them. Let's go here. These are actually shots which were taken by a person that helped me take this review. These are taken with a back camera. A pretty solid set of bokeh shots, these ones. Excellent separation from the background, but we're here for the selfie and not the main camera. We already figured out that the main camera is good. These ones I took myself and applied a bunch of effects. I mean, they're pretty cool and all, but once again, even though the camera is good, I was expecting the best on the market. To be honest, it was a pretty cloudy day, so that may have influenced the quality of the shots. But still, when you're advertised as a selfie phone, you should definitely handle a cloudy weather. This is the party option, which recommends you shake the phone after taking the shot, and all the light sources are turned into, well, party tricks. Okay, so that's about it. Good for the mid-range segment, beaten by most flagships, and compared to the vivo V21, not much of an upgrade. These are daytime shots. Let's see the low light shots. We have plenty of them, and believe it or not, there are even effects for nighttime shots with the main camera. A regular shot, ultra wide shot, much noisier. Okay, once again, a regular shot, main camera, ultra wide shot, a bit darker. And here is where the effects start. They're quite playful, but they're gimmicky, nothing to write home about. I mean, they're not a selling point, I would say. And this is a regular shot. It's not bad, but with the night mode on, things get much clearer. It's not daytime quality, but definitely you can tell the details you're missing. This is actually pink instead of being red, but night mode fixes it a bit. It may appear to be pink here, but in reality it was actually red. So regular shot, a bit darker, night mode shot, making things appear more lit up. And this is the ultra wide, which isn't exactly impressive. Once again, standard shot, ultra wide shot, and a very well lit night mode. Sometimes I found the lights to be huge, the light sources are expanded, especially when we're taking the ultra wide shots, like we have here. And finally, some selfies. I'm a bit underwhelmed by these as well, unless you use the night mode, or unless you use the special spotlight effect. I'm not sure I'm going to post this on Instagram, and the weird focus every once in a while. The separation of the face from the background isn't great, so be advised, find a good light source or generate your own, like I did here with the two flashes. This is an example of a poorly taken party mode shot. You have to shake the phone after the fact, not before it. And another set of shots with the main camera and the ultra wide one. And then the night mode. Okay, so that's about it. The only thing to remember about the nighttime shots is that you have to apply the night mode to get something out of it, and that I'm underwhelmed by the selfie photos taken during the night and partly those taken during the day. Now let's talk about the videos, and I have to go to that special dedicated section for that. We have a huge amount of videos. There's 40 of them, and I'm going to start with the focus test because it's more handy. I actually took it twice. So this is the focus test, alternating between subjects. A bit slower than expected, that's why I took it twice. The close-up focus is fine. The one in the distance has some problems, as you can see. Takes a bit longer than I would have wanted it to. I also have good news. Excellent stabilization. You're going to see that in a minute. Okay, so stabilization test number 1.
Test stabilizare cu mod steady standard.
This is the standard steady mode. We're descending stairs. Yes, I know there's a bit of overexposure here. There's a too intense green. I know that. But the stabilization is pretty spot on. And then we have the other stabilization mode. This is the ultra. It appears a bit shakier at first, but actually it's quite solid in delivering the goods. Still, the green is too intense for its own good. I'm guessing that the quality drops to Full HD, not 4K when you're using this mode. Finally, some toys. 4K details excellent. A bit of a shakier image when you're shooting in 4K, which is to be expected. A bit intense colors here, and it was a cloudy day. I dread to imagine what would happen on a sunny day. And the selfies, well, we have a lot of those. One of the best ones I took is actually, I think this one, which always keeps me in focus. There's a special feature which, no matter what, always keeps your face in the center of the picture, no matter what you do. And that's pretty impressive for me. That's actually the selfie quality I wanted. So at least the vlogging part is covered. And this is the ultra-wide camera. Not bad. A bit more contrasty, so to say, but you catch a lot more background behind you. So if you're a skater, it could be useful. And these are some other colorful shots. As you can see, shaky. The green is exaggerated, but the zoom is actually pretty impressive. And these have been the daytime videos. Let's see a low-light video. We have plenty of those as well. For example, let's see this one here. Quite dark. Shaky. A bit of noise here and there. Colors so-so. But believe it or not, stabilization is actually pretty decent, at least without the special options or on. As you can see, there is no trepidation or tremble of the image. It's quite decent without the steady mode. But this is what happens with the steady mode. Things get shaky. So you should actually leave this off if you want to get proper stabilization during the nighttime. And ultra mode is actually the worst of them. Much shakier than expected. You can see the trembling of the objects if you look closely. Okay, and a selfie video, we also have that during the nighttime. Quite noisy, I have to say. Not very sure it makes for a good vlogging camera at night, unless you activate the spotlight feature to light up your face, like I did here. But still, I've seen better handsets, to be honest, especially in the flagship department. Okay, we're done with the camera. A bit underwhelmed by the selfie behavior. The main camera is solid, ultra-wide is a bit of a letdown, macro is pretty good, colors are fine except for the greens and the vegetation, and stabilization was above average for a mid-range phone. Now, as far as connectivity is concerned, we're obviously dealing with a 5G smartphone with Wi-Fi 6 support. There's also Bluetooth 5.2, as well as GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, BDS, QZSS, and Navic. Of course, there's also NFC for your payment needs, and at the bottom we have an USB-C 2.0 port. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and then I would like to remind you again that we also get bundled headphones and an adapter from USB-C to 3.5mm. Now, as far as the speed test is concerned, we have it here. We did both 5G and Wi-Fi tests, and these are the results. As you can see, in Wi-Fi we achieved a top level of 650 megabits in download, 657 megabits in upload, which is fine. When it comes to 5G, a bit more modest, 193 megabits in download and only 25 megabits in upload. So I would say it's decent for high mid-range. Expected a bit more from the 5G, but it depends on the network as well. Now, the OS you're seeing here, it's called FunTouch OS 12. It's applied on top of Android 12, and there's one thing I like about it and one thing I don't. The thing I dislike is obviously the quick settings area. It looks old, it looks like something from Android 5 or Android 7, but at the same time I totally enjoy the widgets. You can see the widgets here. They're very good looking. They actually remind me of the game Monument Valley, and they're quite nice to see. Minimalistic and abstract, and they have sub versions here. You can also have an app drawer, as you can see here, and an interesting selection which alternates from the apps to the widgets with a simple swipe. Here you can see the wallpapers, which are also pretty good looking. Then we have the UI color. You can obviously use the Android 12 feature of extracting a color from the wallpaper and applying it to certain parts of the menu and the interface. These are the home settings, and aside from that, for security, I'm relying on the face unlock with the front camera, but there's also an optical fingerprint scanner in the screen, which works, I would say, rather fine. The leftmost home screen is dedicated to the news. I'm using swipes to get around, and with this semi-swipe, I actually triggered the recents area, where you can have actually two types of display, either this one, the classic Android one, or this one, so you can see more windows. Split screen is also an option, and going further, let's see what we have here. So there are a lot of settings, useful ones. We got connectivity settings, display settings, personalized animation effects, and there's a lot of them. We have sound effects, sound options, app options, notifications. There's a system update area, battery settings. You can expand the RAM from here. You can add an extra 4 gigs of RAM to the already 12 you have. Security, password, fingerprint, and face unlock. Privacy area with your privacy dashboard and all the permissions you granted over the past 24 hours. Location and a special ultra game mode for gamers with quite a few options, and an esports mode. Sound quality and sound effects for games with a type of surround. Screen mistouch prevention, blocking notifications. Of course, digital well-being and parental control are also part of the package. And well, I would say that's pretty much it. As far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, the most interesting that I'm seeing here are, I would say, Easy Share, letting you transmit files, send and receive, and use a phone clone feature. Aside from that, we have a note-taking application. It's simply called Notes, and as usual, it mimics the one from the iPhone, from iOS. And finally, we also have the weather, and there's also a management app here. Let's actually find it. Resource management, I mean. It's called iManager and has a bunch of useful tools. Space cleanup, security scan, basically a virus scan, data traffic management, and a bunch of utility tools like app encryption, ultra game mode, app clone, and network management. I think we're about done, and once again, this is FunTouch OS. It's a custom interface applied on top of Android 12. I would say it's pretty discreet. It's not very bothersome unless you count that whole quick settings ugly area. Now we reached the end of the review, and as I'm going to mention the pros and cons, I'm going to play a game, a cute little game called Drive, available now in the Play Store. Has been revamped from the last time I played it. Okay, so it's pretty easy. I just move a car around, brake, do a left or right, and try to get gas. Now, I mentioned before the verdict, so here we go. On the pro side, we have the color changing backside here, which goes from gold to blue or green. That's a pro. Of course, we have a comfy and premium build with premium materials. Good performance all around on account of the CPU. Bright and crisp screen. Solid battery life with fast charging included. Loud speaker at the bottom. Also, it's great for 4K selfie videos. Excellent stabilization, I would say, for both the front and the back camera, especially with that feature that always keeps your face centered. I would also say that the main camera takes photos pretty fine if you're strictly talking about the mid-range segment. Selfies aren't bad, but I wanted more. There are tons of effects to apply to selfies, and I'm talking about those filters and much more. So aside from filters, there's posture, there are beauty effects, there are party effects, something like dozens of effects. And finally, night mode is very solid, and we have those cute widgets in this interface, plus extra gaming features, which you can see right here: battery saver, balanced, and performance mode. Okay, now those are the pros. On the cons side, there's no IP certification. At the same time, we do not have an audio jack, we do not have stereo speakers, we do not have a micro SD card slot. Frankly speaking, I'm a bit underwhelmed by the quality of the photos taken by the selfie cameras. I actually expected a little bit more. There's a bit of distortion for the singular speaker at the bottom if you listen to the music all the way up. The greens of the vegetation are a bit too intense for my liking in both photos and videos. When you're shooting 4K clips, the stabilization is a bit lacking. Quick settings looks a bit dated, and the ultra-wide shots did not impress me with the back camera or with the front camera. So those are the cons. Okay, so we're done with the game, we're done with the pros and cons, we're done with the review. This is the vivo V23 5G, and first of all, it's going to be cool for the young audience, the youngsters who want to play with a chameleon phone, the color changing phone. I would say it's better for vlogging than for influencers. Influencers will require good selfies. Vloggers will require good selfie videos. This phone is actually better for selfie videos rather than selfie photos. I've taken 400 of them, so I know what I'm talking about. Solid flower close-ups, good night shots, and there's that. It's quite pricey in some countries, so the youngsters may not be able to buy it. However, special offers from carriers may help it. In the end, the battery is excellent, the screen is excellent, it can handle some gaming, and is definitely a good tool for vlogging. For influencing, well, maybe if you use the back camera more than the front camera. This has been the review of the vivo V23 5G right here at gsmdome.com. Goodbye.